Okay, guys, welcome to Talking Boxing. One day late. Apologies for that. I've had a rough couple of days with being a little bit crook. So it's good to be back on here, as I said, talking boxing like we do every week. So it's been a big week. It seems like a lifetime ago that we had the Zerafa Hardman fight. Was it last Wednesday? I think it was. So I think we had this show on the night before. So yeah, it was an eventful night. I think we actually spoke a lot about this on last week's Boxing Deep Dive show. So if you haven't watched that one and watch this one as well, you obviously see that we do cover a lot of the same topics. But the reason why I love to actually bring them up on this show, I'll just move my microphone out there so it doesn't hurt my camera, is I really want your feedback. It's great to actually get on there and talk with Peter and Matt, Tassie about all things boxing. But what I love about this is we actually get your feedback. So while I think about it, because I actually forgot to do it for the first 10 or 15 minutes last week, is invite some guests in. So the way this works is that I'm going to put the link up in a second here. Yeah, it's up to you whether you want to come on. But if you want to click it, come on. We didn't have a lot of luck with our internet last week. Where I live's not overly great. But we'll see what we can do anyway. But look, worst case, put your comment in the comment section, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say. So I'm going to invite you guys. I'll put it in the chat here. No, that's not it. That's our Fury Whyte. I don't know why that has gone on there. Invite. Go. There we go. I will invite you guys now. So I was thinking of putting a Fury Whyte thing out there. So there it is. So there's the link. If you want to come on and have a chat, happy to have you on. But as I said, I've got lots to get through tonight. Would love to have your comments. If you want to come on, click the link. You'll come into a waiting room, so don't think I'm going to catch you with your pants down or anything like that. You go to the waiting room, we'll bring you on, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. But as I said, I've got a lot to get through myself. If you've got something to say or comment or suggest or whatever you want to do, put it in the comment section because we want to hear from you. This show is about you guys. As I said, our weekly show is when we get on there to have our say. But this show is when you get to have your say and have a little bit of input of what we've been speaking about. And obviously the top of the list is last week's Zerafa Hardman fight. And got to say, what an event. We spoke about this on last week's Deep Dive show that, I was at the event, looked totally blindsided by the result. I think I feel a little bit silly that I actually tipped Hardman to win. But it is what it is. I think it was one of those fights where who knew what was going to happen. Zerafa, as we've gone through many, many times, Zerafa had the experience. He had the fights under his belt, the quality opponents that he'd fought. He's obviously been around boxing a long time. Hardman, it's fresh out of the MMA fraternity. Only had the 12 fights, although I think I've said a few times that I thought the 12 fights might have accounted for a few more, but it is what it is. Hats off to Michael Zerafa. He was absolutely brilliant. He was fantastic, and he just did what he had to do. And what I was really impressed about, before we get into all the points about it, is that the fight itself is that so impressed with Michael Zerafa that he went out there and, especially in the first round, he knew that he did have the experience over Zerafa, over Hardman. So he went out there. He was nice and cool, calm and collected. He waited to see what Hardman had to offer. Isaac, I thought, looked pretty nervous. I think he went out there and I'm not sure whether he believed the hype about whether he would chin Michael early, but he just went out there and he just didn't seem his usual self. And look, that's full credit to Michael Zerafa, really, because as I said, Michael went out there. He didn't get it too excited. He didn't let the emotion get onto him. He let Hardman be the one pressing the fight. He didn't engage Isaac Hardman. He had a look to see what he had, as good boxers do. It doesn't matter who you are and who you're fighting. You have to have a good look at these guys. And as inexperienced as what Isaac was or is, Michael did the right thing, like the greats like Floyd Mayweather and all those do. They go out there and they have a good look, and they see where the openings are going to be, where they're going to lay the traps. And who knew it was going to end in the second round, I've got to say. I certainly didn't. I thought it was going to be a second round knockout. It might be the other way, that Isaac might catch Michael early. But, woof, I was lucky to be enough to be at ringside for the fight. And the left hook he hit him with Well, it wasn't a massive punch. It was so perfectly timed. It was just beautiful. It was on the button that got him as he was sort of coming out of the the exchange, and just caught him just right on the button. And I must admit, I thought when Isaac got up that they might stop the fight right there and then, because he was gone. You could see his knees were slightly shaking. He was very unsteady, as Michael does. Brilliant finish. He didn't muck around. He got in there and he got him out of there, which is good. What good fighters do. We saw it against Anthony Mundine, although we've spoken before. Don't think we can take too much out of that, because Anthony was well and truly shot. But the way he got Isaac Hardman out of there, I think blew everyone away, especially Isaac, who you would have seen on his social media during the week that he was as blindsided as everyone. And as I said, I thought if there was going to be a second round knockout, it might be the other way around. So that was it for the fight itself. As I said, full credit to Michael Zerafa. He had a lot of hate leading into it. I think we put the Instagram post up during the day. 77% of people tipped Isaac Harmon to win by knockout. 72 of those voters voted that he would knock Michael Zerafa out. So, and Michael Zerafa did see that poll, by the way. So you can imagine what was sort of going through his head at the time. But and I got to admit, Isaac actually voted for himself to win by KO. So probably got to take a little bit off there. But he had a lot going against him. He had the crowd. The one thing I will say is that worked in his favour is that he did have the hometown. Well, in football, you call it the home ground advantage, and that's no disrespect to him, because he faced that when he went to fight Jeff Horn in Brisbane 3 years ago. He went up there to Brisbane in Jeff's hometown and had it all against him. Even though he won the first fight, he still went to Jeff's hometown and got there. This time it was Isaac's turn, and the event, I was really impressed. I think I said on the show a week or two ago that I was really surprised at how well the LeBruna team had done to pull this event off. I won't say it was probably the best hyped or promoted fight out there, but the show itself on the night was really, really good. The atmosphere was great. The venue was just first class. It was really, really good. Perfect for boxing. It was, it was sort of enclosed, but the atmosphere was really good. It was nice and tight. Everyone was in close. And it really added to it. The acoustics in the venue were awesome as well. So sometimes you get a lot of arenas and the sound and the music and the cheers get all sort of lost up into the stands. And the other night it was just great. It was a really, really cauldron-like atmosphere, and it was just a really good place for fights. And so hopefully, I'm not sure, didn't look cheap, I will say, after being a promoter myself and knowing what these places cost. I don't think it would have been cheap to put on there. So I'm not sure whether it'll be an ongoing thing. But geez, if it is, I would love to attend more events there. I got a question already there, Andrew. Hi, Lyndon. Didn't look like much in that punch, but must have hit hard. Yes. Congrats, Zerafa. Yeah, well said, mate. It just hit him right on the button, and it was a short punch. And the thing about these types of punches is there's this myth out there that you've got to line someone up and it's got to come from 6 feet away to hit the button to do the job. Well, all you got to do is look at a fighter like Mike Tyson back in the day. His punches used to travel 6 inches, and they would knock 6'7", 6'8" guys out, 220, 230, 240 pound. He would knock them out with those shots. So, yeah, doesn't have to travel that far, mate. And it just hit him on the spot. And the worst thing is for Isaac, because he wasn't expecting it. That's the worst punch you get hit with. When you see a punch coming, you obviously prepare for it. The punches that knock people out are the ones they don't see. And Isaac just didn't see it. He engaged. Zerafa sort of spun him around and hooked him as he was coming out of the corner, and just caught him right on the dot. So that's how quick it can happen. And Isaac just could not recover. It didn't help. I think there was still about a minute and a half left in the round, I think, from memory. So it was going to be a long shot that he was going to be able to hang in there. But he tried. Strange, I will say, though, that Isaac was actually in the process of punching, exchanging punches with Michael when it was called off. So I'm just going to move my microphone there. It seems to be getting in the road of the camera and blurring me out there. But that was the funny thing to me, is that even though I agreed that it 100% should have been stopped, it was interesting that Isaac was still actually throwing punches at the time the referee stopped it and waved it off, which is not something that you usually see, but he got hit with some heavy punches, some really heavy punches. And, I did the job with Anthony Mundine and really knocked him in the next week. Isaac's tough. He's from that MMA background. I don't think he was going to knock him out the same way, but geez, look, it was a win with a big exclamation mark, probably a double exclamation mark at the end, and he proved without doubt that he is Australia's #1 middleweight. So good luck to him. But just back to the promotion itself. As I said, I love the venue. Look, the one thing I will say, I wasn't overly impressed with the undercard. I know they had, I think they had 3 women's fights. Might have been 3 men fights plus male fights plus the main event. No problems with mixing the fights up sex-wise. I thought that was great. They were all big, well, I think the first set of girls were very, very inexperienced, but it's good. You got to give them a start. The Carly Salmon, Mousy Jacobs fight probably didn't live up to expectations, but I thought it would be. I thought it'd be a lot more explosive than that. I've seen both girls fight numerous times. I thought it might have been a bit more action-packed, but Carly did enough to win. That's all you got to do. The world title fight between Shanika Johnson and Melissa Esquivel, I think you pronounce her name. Look, it was pretty scrappy, but Shanika did enough to win. I think she pulled it out in probably the last 2 or 3 rounds, which I think if you look at the scorecards, that was the case. I think if she hadn't won the last round, it probably would have been a draw from memory. I think with the scorecard, she might have won on one, lost on the other, and the other one would have been a draw. So it would have been a draw. We would have been back for a rematch for the vacant title. So, but yeah, good on her. She pulled it out in the last couple of rounds and deserved to win. Be interesting to see what she does, whether she fights Shannon O'Connell or Ebony Bridges next. I know Shannon would love to get that shot. Not so sure about Ebony. I'm not sure Ebony has the tools to beat Shanika Johnson or especially Shannon O'Connell. So I'm not sure what happens there. Be great for Australian boxing to have a big female fight, though. I think that'd be great. But we'll see what happens there. The first fight of the pay-per-view, and if you did watch the pay-per-view, let me know your thoughts because, look, I must admit that was probably the one disappointing thing about the whole thing was the standard of the undercard. I know we're all paying the money to watch the main event. What do we got there? You again, Andrew. Wasn't impressed with undercards either, nor the club disco dancing. I've got that on my hit list in a second. Don't worry about that. I had that on my talking points on last week's deep dive show, and I've got it again to talk about tonight because I don't think I'm overreacting. But yeah, I think my point is with the whole thing with the undercard is it's okay if it's just a local event, whatever venue it might be in Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, wherever it might be. You get what you pay for sometimes, and you're not quite sure what the undercard will be like. But when you're paying $46 for an event like this, I think you're well entitled to expect some quality. And I think I can't remember whether Peter or Tassie brought it up on the show last week that these shows are hard to get to put together and all cost money. Like that, I really don't because No Limit, Tasman Fighters, Ace Boxing have all shown that you put good quality fights on and the crowd will come. No excuse for not putting on a pretty dismal undercard, especially when they're not late replacements. I know being a promoter, things happen, that fights fall over at last, all sorts of things happen. I'm not saying that when you've got enough time to really plan these events, I just think you've got to invest a little bit more in the undercard. I really do. And so I was a little bit disappointed. As I said, as a fight fan, I only went there to watch the main event. I really didn't care about the rest of the show, but I put myself in the punters' perspective who are out there watching this show and bought, paid the $46 or whatever it was. I think it was $46 to watch the event. I think they just expect a little bit more. And they're the ones that'll jump on. They want to see a quality card. Yep, the real hardcore fans aren't that stressed. They just want to see the main event. But I was just disappointed that, not enough was put into it. I mean, you go through the fights, as I said, Jack Gibbs' fight in the first fight, they probably should have started the telecast even later than they did and just not televised that fight because it was all over in about 2 minutes. Probably could have been over in about 30 seconds, really. Because I think Jack Gibb, who's a great young talent, it's not his fault, don't get me wrong. But I think he decked his Fijian opponent in about the first, 15 or 20 seconds and then, dropped him 2 more times the next sort of minute and a half. So I just don't like to see that, especially on TV. We're trying to get new fans of the sport. And as I said, I felt a little bit for Jack. He came over to our table after his fight and spoke to his sponsors who were promoters who were Tasman Fighters. I was on their table and And yeah, you could tell he was disappointed that he got a big opportunity on the big stage and was not real happy with the with the fight he got. But it is what it is. The other one that was a little bit disappointing was the Benjamin Bomber fight, and I really rank Benjamin Bomber. I think he's a great young talent. Hopefully, he gets a fight with Nikita Zoo down the track, or a Terry Nicholas, or he's Bo Belbin. A few different fights out there for him. But I was disappointed that his wasn't a late replacement, as far as I know. And the guy was from Thailand, and I think he was 43 or 44 years old, or whatever it might be. But to put him in with that guy, I mean, I'm not sure he had a losing record, but if he didn't, it was pretty close to it. I just think I'll be really benefiting these good young fighters to put him in with someone like that. So I don't know. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. The ones out there that paid the $46. If I was in that position, I just would have been a little bit disappointed. I would say that we didn't get a quality undercard. But then when the main event starts, I suppose we all forget about that, don't we? Because when the fight actually started, I thought, as I said before, the atmosphere was just electric. The entrance of both was absolutely awesome, especially Zerafa. Hardman's, I've got to say. Before the fights, actually went around boxes of, I haven't seen the movie, but it was The Purge. They had the masks, and they all lit up, and I think they had green ones and red ones, blue ones, whatever it was, but they were like clown type of masks, and they gave them out, and with the instructions, when Isaac came out, you put the mask on, and they put the lights out, and it looked really cool, and the music and the entrance, it was just really first class. And then when Zerafa came out, it wasn't necessarily an entrance for the ages, but the song he chose, it was the Living in the Hall of Fame, whatever it's called. I think but the volume of it and the crowd interaction and Michael himself, it was electric. It really was. And the place was absolutely buzzing. Before I go on there, Andrew, again, mate, we've got I love to see Bomber against a more quality opponent. Well, I think we all would, mate. And I think especially Bomber himself, I've got a feeling, I don't think he's really had a real test yet. And I know he's only a young kid, and I don't think he had a big amateur background. But, I think, I'm sure there's got to be lots of other fighters around that could have jumped in that, that would have tested him out. I don't know. I know that maybe they're trying to build his record up, but I think I will say on the Benjamin Bomber thing and his team, don't be out there calling Nikita Zoo out and saying what you're going to do to him, and then you get in there and you fight someone like that. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Okay, get in there and fight someone with a little bit more, let's say, cred. Then get out there on the microphone and call Nikita Zoo out. Don't be doing it when you're fighting those types of fighters. And I'm happy to debate that with Bomber or anyone out there in the same boat. The old adage, you talk it up, you got to back it up. If you're going to talk it up and you want that fight with Nikita, or as I said, the Terry Nicholases or whoever, let's start fighting some better guys out there. And I hope he does, because he's a good young talent. And that is a real good fight I would love to see down the track as a headliner on Fox. I really would. Because I've got to stress here, I'm not having a crack at Benjamin Bomber himself here. It's probably more the team. Let's get him going. He's had 5 fights now. Time to get him cracking. Yeah, back to the Zerafa Hardman fight. Respect to Hardman too. He took the L like a man. He certainly did, mate. And I'll get to that in a sec. But just again in the the lead up, to the fight, it was so electric that the bell rang. There was an almighty roar. Obviously, went a little bit silent because then obviously the both boxers were sort of feeling each other out. As I said at the start, Michael was just awesome in the way he approached it. Isaac looked a bit. I won't say nervous, because I don't think he's the type of guy that gets nervous, but anxious. Just a bit over anxious, I think, and he really wanted to lay one on Zerafa. And when you get to that level, those guys, you can't just load up and hope to land the big right hand. And I think he missed about 4 or 5 of them in the first round. Michael just sidestepped him, pivoted, weave, slipped, whatever it might be, and just really just eased out of it. And then when he had that first round under his belt, you could sort of see the look on his face. After that first bell rang, he sort of nodded, yep, okay, I've got that first round timing. And I think he might have said himself, normally it takes 6, 7, 8 rounds sometimes to really get that timing and that range. Well, he got it after 1 round. I think he said in his interview afterwards that he was very confident that he was going to get Isaac after that, where Isaac, on the other hand, looked a little bit frustrated that he couldn't land one on Michael, and the second round he got even more anxious, and that's what happens at that level. You get caught. So so that's it in a nutshell. As I said earlier, I was really admired the way Michael got him out of there. It's what true professionals do, and didn't waste any time. He didn't give a chance for Isaac to to get his faculties back. He just did what he got to do, and netted it right there. So just on some more points of Zerafa Hardman, we've just covered the pay-per-view version of it. Interesting to hear what you think about, if you were there, the general section. Again, we spoke about this on last week's fight. Normally you can tell the extent of these events by the generals. The ringside tables and the ringside seats normally get sold out pretty quickly or easily by, obviously the teams and the families and supporters and sponsors and this sort of stuff. But the true test is an event like this to look up and see what's in the crowd. And I was really disappointed that there was only probably a couple of hundred up at the stands. And I was really disappointed for the promoters that more people didn't get behind it, because it got some really good traction, I think, on the news in the last couple of days before, and especially obviously what happened at the press conference and everything else. So just surprised. It'd be interesting for your thoughts out there. Let us know, what if you didn't go to the event, why didn't you go? Especially if obviously you're in Melbourne and you're a fight fan, why didn't you go to the fight? Was it just easier to be, to watch it on pay-per-view? Are you still a little bit maybe stressed about the COVID situation? Was it too pricey? I myself don't think it was too pricey at all compared to what I've seen other events go for. I mean, to put it in perspective, I think, don't quote me, I think tickets might have been $50 or $60, I think, up in the generals. If you go to a normal show at any event around Melbourne, I'm not sure what it's like in the state, you'll pay $100 just for a general ticket. So I thought the prices were really, really good. But I'm interested to hear why you guys didn't see the need to go, because it's a strange one to me when the tickets are very affordable. Another one from Andrew there. Looked to me like Isaac rushed his work and Mick caught him between thinking and throwing. Yeah, well, you nailed it there, mate. He did exactly that. He timed it perfectly. I'm not quite sure he meant to knock Isaac out, or that to be the knockout punch. He just timed it beautifully. As I said before, he hooked him as easy as he was getting out of the corner, and that's all it takes. But yeah, getting back to the crowd. As again, put on there what you think if you didn't go, because it was just a strange one for me. And I must say, a little bit disappointing as a fight fan that with all the publicity that we got, that they didn't, or they couldn't, sell maybe an extra 300 or 400 seats up in the. So it probably means they had about 1,600 or 1,700 people there, or probably not even, maybe 1,500, which is disappointing to me. I'd be disappointed if I was a LeBruder team with that. Why they couldn't get a few more there. Now, before, Andrew, you mentioned about the nightclub thing. This is another one that was on the night. It was tough. I think sometimes, and I'm not sure whether it's the promoters are actually actively saying we need to do this, to have the music loud and the lights and all that going all the time, and the dancers and the rappers. And look, excuse me, sort of getting over a bit of sickness there. Look, I think sometimes the promoters forget that the majority of people that go into these events are in the fight industry and they're fight fans. When I go to the fights, I do love the razzmatazz, but I want to actually, in between fights, be able to talk to the people beside me. Now, on the night, I lost my voice. The people I was speaking to had lost their voices because they're trying to talk over the music. And it just made it really uncomfortable, to the point where I said enough. I went out to the lobby or the foyer, and there was probably about 10 or 12 different people out there that I knew that were out there for the same reason. It was just way too loud. There is a time and place for it. I think when the fights come on, turn the music up, get the lights going, get smoke and all that going. But in between fights, let's just get it down so we can at least hear each other. That's what I love about going to the fights overseas. You go over there, and they're like traditional boxing events. They have the loud music and the rappers and all that sort of stuff. But when it's needed, they don't just fill every single gap with just splitting rap music or techno music or whatever. It gets really irritating, especially for men or people of my age. Okay, I won't say exactly how old I am, but we like to actually enjoy the fights. And maybe I'm in the minority.
that's just the way I see it. When I go to the fights, I want to enjoy the fights and have a good night out, not walking out with no voice and a splitting headache. So that was what I thought of it anyway. What have we got here? Thanks for all the comments tonight, mate. Don't be shy out there, guys. Let's get it going. I'm going to put the link up there again. There's no guarantee the links will work, by the way, because whether it's your internet or mine, but keep them coming anyway. So you're in the Northern Territory, Andrew. I didn't know that, mate. So no pay-per-view for you. Never actually been to a big fight live in the Big Smoke. Loved it one day. Mate, do it. It's the best thing, whether it's in Australia or overseas. Nothing better than a big fight night. And look, maybe the Kambosos Haney fight is for you, because if you're going to ever get to a big fight, then that's the one to get to. And actually speaking of the Haney and Kambosos fight, maybe that debunks my about where are all the people buying the generals, because apparently generals are on sale now, and the whole event's get close to getting sold out, which would absolutely stuck me, because, excuse me, I was one of the ones that actually said they might struggle to get sort of 30,000. So, yeah, I've been wrong about Zerafa and Hardman, so it looks like I'm going to be wrong about that as well. So that is a really good, pleasant surprise, that one. I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy that everyone's supported such a big event. I can't wait for George to walk out in front of, what hopefully will be about 50 or maybe even more thousand at Marvel Stadium, because I think he's the type of guy that really feeds on it. I think if he walked out, there was 20,000 people there, that would probably deflate him somewhat. But I think if he walks out, there's 50,000 Aussies going nuts for him. I think it'll raise him to another level, and hopefully get him that win. So where to now for Zerafa and Hardman? The big questions. I think it's pretty obvious for me, as far as we'll start with Isaac Hardman, back to the drawing board. I will say really happy and proud of Isaac that he's come out. He put the social media post out late last week saying even though he has a rematch clause, he doesn't expect it to be handed to him. And I really admire him for that, because he could invoke that clause. I'm not sure whether Michael might be able to contest it. I don't know how it works and what's involved with the contract, but I really admire him. And I actually had a couple of conversations with people saying, just take the rematch. He's got to take the rematch. Well, the mindset of someone like Isaac Hardman is, no, I'm not going to be handed the rematch. I want to earn the rematch. And that's, again, why I admire him so much, because even though he could invoke that clause, he said, no, I want to go back. I want to assess what's happened. I get another fight with Zerafa. I want to earn it. And more importantly, I want to be prepared for it. I think it was a really big wake-up call for Isaac that just at the moment, he's not at the level. And Michael said right from the word goes that there's levels in this sport. I'm not saying that Michael Zerafa is at the top level, but he's certainly, based on last week's performance, a couple of levels above Isaac at the moment. So for Isaac, I think I said again last week that I would hope he gets some help for Blair Studley. It's not a crack at Blair at all, because he's done a great job with Isaac so far. It's simply looking at where you've fallen down and trying to correct your situation. And at the end of the day, the facts are facts. That Blair is an MMA coach, with an MMA background. He's obviously had more of a boxing, I suppose, apprenticeship in the last 2 or 3 years with Isaac, but he is a MMA coach. And if you're going to go to that next level, then I really think he needs a boxing coach, not to take over, not to, to make him, go down a peg or two. It's simply to add to the layers of what's already there, and more of a consultant. So not bringing in a new coach, just bringing in a consultant. There's so many good coaches out there that can bring in to work with Isaac during the camp. Blair could be in charge of, the everyday sort of training with pads and, the strength and conditioning and all the other things that come with it. But bringing a consultant who can maybe help with the strategy, maybe help with a little bit of technique. One thing I would like to see with Isaac is that a little bit more defensive mindedness. He comes in, and obviously what happened last week, he came in a little bit, he exited the exchange with his chin up in the air and no awareness that just exiting out of the exchange doesn't mean the exchange is over, and he learnt the hard way. So I would love to see, and I think I rattled off some names last week, Angelo Hyder, with Billy Hussein. I mean, there's so many great coaches out there. I'm just pigeonholing him in a couple here, but some Steve Della up there in Brisbane. There's so many around that area. I think that could help him, as I said, to come in and not to take over, but just to help and be part of the team of the camp and just help Blair. Just as I said, add another layer to where. That cake they're trying to build. Because I think Blair's great. He's more of a father figure I won't say a father figure, more of a brother, really, anything to Isaac. So he's got that trust of the fighter. He gets him obviously super fit. But I think if he's going to take that next step, he really needs to iron out that deficiency in his camp, and that's to get someone on there with a boxing background, and not just any boxing background, an elite boxing background. Why bring someone in who's might have a boxing background, but maybe not been at the level. I'm not saying an elite fighter, by the way. I'm saying someone that's been a trainer at an elite level. Who knows? He might even bring in a Jeff Fennick or someone like that, just to work with him might only be a 4-week block of the camp. Normally these guys do a 8, 9, 10-week camp, probably around 8 to 9 actually, to bring in Jeff Fennick for a 4-week or 5-week block, just to really help in that area. So what do we got there, mate? Hardman is a real man, a man's man. Yes, that's true. I'd really like to make he make some corrections and get a title shot. Look, I'll be honest with you, mate. I think from what I saw last week, he's a long way from a title shot. Like I said earlier, that he learnt the hard way, and unfortunately, that's the only way in boxing you learn the hard way. There's no soft learnings. You learn it under the lights with no one else in there to help you except the referee or maybe a corner. And unfortunately, you don't realise you're maybe not at that level until you're not at that level. And but as I said, I really admire Isaac like you, mate. He's a class human being. Yeah, he talked it up. He got a few people offside, but the way he took the L and has really responded by that. Take my hat off to him. As far as Michael Zerafa goes, well, who knows with Michael? He's now the number 2 IBF middleweight in the world. So he's got the Brazilian that he's reported in line to fight by the end of the year. Triple G, I'm not sure, has officially vacated that IBF title yet, so that will have to happen first. But hey, look, good luck to him. I mean, a year ago he was on the scrap heap. Well, not even a year. He was on the scrap heap after the Tim Tszyu fiasco. He was ostracised by the Australian boxing community. Everyone said his career was over. I myself doubted that his career would progress from there unless he went overseas. So I really, as I said, take my hat off to Michael Zerafa that he's been able to regroup. His team's been able to regroup, more importantly, pick him up, dust himself off, and now, as much as we probably, the Tim Tszyu admirers don't like to admit it, he's going to probably get a world title shot before Tim. Now, who would have thought that? I never would have. It's amazing how these things work. Now, I will put a caveat to that. I don't think Michael is the number 2 middleweight in the world, but I think there's plenty of other guys that are way in front of him. But if you know the way the ratings work and the way you align yourself with a particular sanctioning body, and you fight the right fighters, and Isaac Hardman, again, I don't think was anywhere near top 10 rated. I think he was in there. I think he might have been number 8 or something like that. I'm not quite sure. I don't think he'd done anywhere near enough to be in the top 10 of the middleweights. But end of the day, Michael said, thank you. I'll take that ranking. And I'm improved on his own ranking, of course. And now he gets the shot. So great behind the scenes maneuvering from Team Zerafa. That's what I will say. Because as I said, 6 months ago, he was shot. Or 8 months, 9 months, whatever it was. He was shot to pieces. No one wanted a bar of him. And, as I said, I didn't think he had anywhere to go. And here we are. Tim's still sitting on the sidelines, waiting to see what's going to happen. I got no doubt his fight will happen probably early next year, and I got it all. Again, he'll make the most of that opportunity and take the belt. Who it is, I think he's got the style to beat both of them. I think he's more suited though to beat Castano rather than Charlo. Again, just styles making fights. I think that Charlo will make amends in his fight and beat Castano. Even though I did think Castano beat Charlo in the first fight, I think if Charlo's a fighter, we all think he'll make amends in his fight and set up that fight with Tim Tszyu. But this is probably another topic, of course, but we're just sort of getting off track here. But if there's no way Tim's going to sit on the sidelines for 8, 9, 10 months, even 12 months, who knows? But so expect him to fight again. I don't think it'll be an overly risky fight. I think the guy he fights will be durable and experienced, but not in a position to maybe do damage. So he might be experienced, but maybe a big puncher or anything like that. So we'll see what happens there. Either way, Tim Tszyu will go on to fight for the world title, and Michael Zerafa go and fight for the world title. But interesting to hear what you guys think. Is Michael Zerafa now in the box seat? He came out this week and he said, what's Timmy doing? I'm fighting for a world title. What's he doing? I'm now in the box seat and it's now going to be on my turn. I still don't think that's the case. I don't think even if Michael Zerafa wins the world title and fights Tim Tszyu in his first defence, I still don't think he's the A side. I still think no matter when they fight, Tim Tszyu is the A side. And as much as Michael said that it'll be all by his terms, don't get mistaken into thinking that, because it'll all be, the majority of it will still be on Tim's terms, because they still need to sell the tickets and everything else. And I think that's only done by having him as the A side and Zerafa as the villain, which I don't think he really cares about, to be honest, whether he's a villain or not. So, yeah, so that's where I see that. I think be interesting to see what's going to happen over the next few months. What happens with whether, as I said, Tim fights again, which I think he will, or Zerafa wins that title and we see them fight down the track. What do we got there, mate? We've got another one. Canelo got to get through Bivol before Triple G rematch. Yep, good point. But I won't be surprised if Triple G hangs him up after third. Yep, and good luck to our boys Zerafa. Exactly, mate. Certainly not taking sides here. I think it'll be great for Australian boxing, and we need more of these type of fights. I will say, mate, I think Canelo. Excuse me, let's take a drink here. Excuse me. I think as tough as Bivol is, I think that Canelo has the tools to get that job done. I think he'll be tough. I think he'll go 12 rounds. I think he'll give Canelo some good work. But I think, look, in the end, I think Canelo gets the job done, sets up the Triple G rematch. Based on what I saw of Triple G's fight with Murata, I think Canelo wins by stoppage this time. But what I will say is don't get too caught up in the Triple G performance. As I said, based on that fight, the Triple G that turned up against Murata will get stopped by Canelo. And I think in 6 or 7 rounds. That's just my opinion. But Triple G, I don't think it had a fight for nearly a year. It might have been over a year. A guy his age, I think the fight will do him the world of good. And I think the occasion will do him the world of good. I think the surroundings will do him a lot better than being in Japan. So I think we'll see a better Triple G. But, geez, it would have to be a hell of a lot better Triple G for him to beat Canelo, or even be competitive, if you're asking me. But look, I think I'm one of the ones that I thought the first fight was a draw. Most people thought Triple G won. I thought a draw, fair result. I think there was no doubt in the second one, in my opinion, that Canelo won quite clearly. Before we move on from Zerafa and Hardman, I just want to bring up, where was it? I had a guy named Matthew Charles. And now he actually wrote on our YouTube page. Now it's a little bit of reading here, but I want to just get your thoughts on. I'll give mine. This is Matthew, what he said here. Keen to hear your thoughts on the way Michael carried on after the fight on this week's show. I thought it was absolutely disgusting. Now, if you're not quite sure what happened, straight after the fight, I'm not sure whether it was shown on TV. When the referee stopped the fight, Michael ran over to Hardman's corner. Blair Studley was standing on the ring apron, and he got right in his face. And I'm talking, 3 inches away from his face, and screamed to his face. I'm not quite sure what was said. He said he thinks it's disgusting. Look, I didn't like it, but you got to remember, the heat of the moment, with all the build-up, all the adrenaline, all the excitement, everything going through his body, he went, and it just got the better of him, and he got straight in his face. As I said, I didn't like it, but you got to excuse Zerafa unless you've been in that position yourself. It's hard to explain what goes through your body at the time. So I'll give him a bit of a pardon for that. I'll pass on that one, I think. Let's see. So throw his mouthpiece at Hardman's trainer and scream in his face, running around the ring like he just won a world title. Really pathetic. Again, I don't condone it or agree with it, but totally understand where Michael was coming from. His emotions just got the better of him. Let's be real. Zerafa is a good / great domestic fighter, but his ego and warped perception of reality is really odd. Might be a little bit harsh. I think, look, he's a very good domestic fighter. I think that, to me, I'll be honest with you, the jury's out on whether Zerafa is actually a good world-class fighter or is not. The thing is, we know he's a very, very good domestic fighter, but internationally, the international fights he's had, he's lost all of them. Peter Quillen, the Russian, his name escapes me at the moment, but he lost to him very early in his career, by the way. Peter Quillen, he got stopped, even though that was early in his career as well, and Cal Brook. He beat Jeff Horn, of course, but Jeff returned the favour in the rematch. So, as I said, I think there's no debate about whether he's a good domestic fighter, but yeah, I'm still to be sold whether he's a good world level fighter. But let's hope we're all wrong, and he gets the job done in the world title fight. Good thing about him, I will say about Zerafa, he's got a little bit of the Kambosos thing about him, where you remember with Kambosos, no one believed in him. I know there's a few now that says yes, we believed in him, but at the end of the day, did you really? It's good in hindsight, but Kambosos from start to finish, everyone in Australia was saying you got no hope of beating Lopez. You're a domestic fighter. You're not at world level. He maintained his belief the whole way out, never lost his belief, and got in there and got the job done. I'm not saying Zerafa is the fighter that Kambosos is, but his whole demeanour, his whole outlook, the way he speaks, everything about him just gives off a bit of the Kambosos feels to me. That if he gets that world title shot, don't be surprised that he takes it like Kambosos did. So, not to say it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does it. Welcome to Pommy in Oz. Our old mate Pommy. The Zerafa fight was fantastic. Sweet timing. Didn't mind Zerafa. He showed a bit of, is that over the top emotion, mate? I'm not really up with these acronyms or whatever they're called, but went back over to give him a hug and sent amicable. Yes, spot on, mate. And that's what I was just going to get to. His brother was probably more animated than what he was, by the way. I don't know whether you could see it on TV. Excuse me. His brother went up there and he was really excited. He was yelling and screaming and, at the crowd. I think someone threw a bottle or something of it, which he slipped very well. You can tell it runs in the family. The bottle went at him and he slipped it and went, yep, let's go. And I thought it was great, but he was probably the first one that he went over to Hardman's corner after the emotion had just gone out. The sting had gone out of it after about a minute or so, and he went over there, and he was probably the first one that gave Blair Studley and Isaac a hug and said he called his brother over, Michael, and that's when we started to see the peace pipe beginning to be smoked. So I thought it was really good. I love the whole. I got to say, I must admit, I love the whole emotion of the whole thing, and because I've been there myself, and just an electric sort of feeling. So, as I said, for both of them, give him the pass mark. But yeah, Pommy, I'm with you, mate. I really like the fact that they actually, at the end of it, I'm not quite sure I like the whole Ric Flair thing, whatever they did. I'm not sure what you call it, whether it's the strut or the dance, whatever the hell you call it. I didn't really like that too much, but I thought it was all around. It was good that they ended up. Hugging it out afterwards. And I will say, though, if they fight again in another year or two, you'll be guaranteed that it'll be just as heated and just as on as this one was. But, well, you would hope so anyway. What do you got there, mate? Pommy from the eye. Zerafa has improved, yes, since the Cal Brook fight. Controlled himself in attack. One thing versus he never jabbed on his exit, and Cal counted that part seems sorted. Very well said, mate. I've got to say, you're boxing there. Yeah, and you're right. Against Cal Brook. And look, that was 3.5 years ago, I think it was. And Zerafa, even then, was still pretty inexperienced. I think he might have been 26 at the time, but not really travelled. So, I think he will challenge depending who he fights. Yep, I agree, mate. Look, I agree. I said it at the start of the show. I'm not sure you saw it at the start where I said that Michael really impressed me because he came out. He can have a tendency to get a bit loose and get a bit emotional, but he boxed so smart in that first round, set everything up, got his timing, got his range, got his rhythm, and when the time came, he dropped Hardman and then all over. So I haven't got enough good things to say about Michael Zerafa because I thought if there was going to be a knockout, it would be Hardman. That totally shocked me. So that's it. So what else we got there? So it's just back to that, YouTube video comment. Also, going up to Isaac's partner after you've called her husband a racist all week for unfounded reasons, leading to her being the victim of trolling, was pure arrogance. Yeah, look, I didn't actually see that, Matthew. I didn't see when he went up to. Look, I will say I really didn't like this thing at all. I thought it was a real cheap shot from the whole team, Zerafa, whoever's part of it. I really didn't like it at all. I thought it was, as I said, a real cheap way of getting under Hardman's skin. And look, I don't think it affected the result of the fight, but I don't think there's any argument that it affected Hardman. And I don't think, he'll admit it, but body language to me changed after that. Even at the press conference itself, Hardman at the start, chest pumped out, full of confidence, and after that, he spent the whole rest of when that comment came out. I think it was under Zerafa's breath that might have come out. He called him. I won't say what he said because I don't want to misquote what Michael said, but he did call Hardman a racist. I'm not sure. I wasn't aware that calling him saying anything against the Maltese was being racist. I'm not sure how the whole racism works, but look, Zerafa took offence, and that's fine. Look, who am I to say that you can't take offence to your heritage? I got Spanish and Italian heritage and that sort of stuff. If someone called me a name, I don't think I'd be too offended by it, but, it is what it is. But I don't think Hardman recovered mentally from that. As I said, I don't think it affected the results. I'm not making excuses, but I think after that, Hardman's demeanour changed. The interviews before the fight, in the change rooms, even the way he walked in the ring, it wasn't the same arrogant Hardman that you would normally see. The confident Hardman, I will say. And so who knows? Only time will tell. When they review the fight and what happened, will they come up with some answers to the questions? But to me, I think it really did affect him. So yeah, as I said, I didn't see any interaction with Hardman's fiance, and they're getting married next week. So best of luck to them, by the way, before I forget. So I'm not sure how that goes, but yeah, I didn't like the racism thing. As I said, it was a very, very, very cheap way of trying to get under Hardman's skin. So whether it worked or not, who knows? Pommy, you may be a bit weird. Yes, you may be, but do you mind a bit of trash talk? Yes, I'm with you, mate. Part of it is being big. Get yourself in the zone. Zerafa seems a nice bloke. Has to press the button. First and foremost, Pommy, yes, I have met Michael many, many times. I've promoted him, I think 3 or 4 times, including the Horn fight in Bendigo. So I've had a lot to do with Zerafa, especially in the lead up to that show. He came up from Melbourne a few times for media and that sort of stuff. I was the one that drove him around and spent the day with him. You will not find a more or a bigger gentleman in this sport now. So don't for 1 second think I'm having trying to diss Michael Zerafa here, because he's a really, really good guy. He gets a lot of flack through the Aussie boxing fan base. But if you met him in real life, in everyday life, he'd be the first to shake your hand, take a photo, sign an autograph, do whatever, donate something to charity. He'll be the first to do it. But having said that, I still stand by the fact that I think it was a cheap thing to do. I'm all 100% for the trash talking. I loved it. I loved the build up to Zerafa Hardman. Don't get me wrong, I thought it was awesome. And that's why I was disappointed in the numbers on the night as far as the generals go, because I thought we could have got behind a little bit more. But doesn't change the fact that I think they went down. They got down in the gutter, trying to label Hardman a racist, especially when you hear what Hardman said. His fiance's Papua New Guinean heritage. Her father is a chief in the Papua New Guinean village or tribe. I'm not quite sure what it is, but he's from Caboolture up there, where all his mates and that are all Pacific Islanders or Maoris or whatever you want to call it. So that's why I think it really got under his skin and cut deep. Now, whether that's what Zerafa actually was really going after, well, if that was the aim, well, mission accomplished, because I really think they did what maybe Hardman didn't think they would be able to do and get under his skin, because normally it's the other way around. So doesn't mean I agree with that. I just think it was a pretty cheap thing to do. All right, Andrew, what have we got there, mate? Is Tim a definite Charlo Castano winner? No, he's not. And I think it's been perceived here in the Aussie press that it's a foregone conclusion. No, it is not a foregone conclusion. Tim is a number one ranked WBO challenger. That means he's not number one with the IBF, WBA, or WBC. Now, you're right, Fundora, he might get first dibs. Exactly right. He's the interim WBC champion. And in reality, he's got just as much right to have a fight with the winner as Tim does. So forget what you're hearing about the Aussie boxing media. They'll tell you that it's all happening. I think if you talk to Glenn Jennings or hear what he has to say, Tim's manager, I think you'll hear a more balanced approach. The other thing is that we want to fight the Charlo Castano winner. We're ready to fight the Charlo Castano winner. However, if they decide not to fight us, the belt becomes vacant. We fight for the vacant belt. They just want to fight. They'll fight whoever. And that's what I really like about Tim Tszyu. Not once has he said, I want to go down this route or that route or that route. He's just saying, hey, whoever wants to take me, here I am. Let's go. And that's what I really like about Tim Tszyu. So, yes, no, he's not a definite at all, which is why I think he'll fight again. As I said before, end of the year. I would hope he gets the fight. I think the winner of this surely would see the merit in fighting Tim over Fundora. As much as Tim hates it, he's still got that last name. He's still a legend in world boxing, in American boxing, and I think that makes a lot more sense than fighting Fundora. So I think that's the fight they would go down. But who knows if Terence Crawford or Errol Spence or one of these guys, hopefully they'll fight each other, of course. Excuse me. But if they don't fight each other, then maybe one of those steps up. Who knows? It's a really fascinating situation down there at the moment. What have we got here? Pommy. As long as the end game is they shake hands, have a bit of a hug, I'm all for it. Fury does it. Prince knows used to do it, but was an angel out the ring locally. Yep. No, I agree, mate. And you hit it on the head. All for that sort of stuff, as long as at the end of it you can shake hands. And I must admit, I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen with Hardman and Zerafa. I thought it might have gone, especially after the weigh-off when Zerafa, went nuts afterwards and his brother lost. I'll give Zerafa's, I gave credit to his brother earlier. I'll also give credit to Zerafa's corner, his key cornerman, not the hangers-on, the key cornerman on the night. We're all like, let's be respectful here. And I really liked that as well. I really admired that. So that was great. But yeah, you're right. As I said, I wasn't quite sure whether that would be the case, but really happy they shook it. They hugged it out afterwards and shook hands. Make no mistake, if they fight again, it'll be on again. But in the meantime, it was good. Tyson Fury's a little bit different, mate. It doesn't matter if it's before the fight, during the fight, or after the fight. He loves to give him a hug. There's really no trash talking with Tyson. I think it's more so just to get into the heads. And I think sometimes the way he's actually so friendly actually works just as good as, the whole, being spiteful towards him. It's an interesting one. And we love Tyson Fury. I got him on the agenda in a second. Maybe occasion got to Hardman. Yes, mate, that is definitely maybe the case. Let's just remember, Isaac, I think he's fought in one main event, but it was against Adam Stowe. With all due respect to Adam Stowe or Stowe, whatever, however you pronounce it, he's not Michael Zerafa. And he wasn't in hostile territory. To walk in, I can rest assured, walking into that arena as the villain or the B-side or whatever you want to call it, it would have been very, very daunting. Because with the Rafa's team, they were very, very vocal, very intimidating. So maybe the occasion did. And let's not forget, Zerafa's a very, very good fighter. So you get in there and, as I said earlier, if you get in there and all of a sudden it's too late to realise that maybe you're a little bit out of your depth at this stage in your career, it's too late when it all happens. The lights are on, the bells have rung, the crowd's cheering. Sorry, you're on your own. So who knows? As I said before, mate, my personal opinion is not so much the fight or the scuffle at the the press conference. I think the racism comment got under his skin more than all the other things together. So that's just my opinion. The only one that knows that, of course, is Isaac. But that's just my opinion looking at him. I just showed that one. Pommy, what do you got there, mate? I've got a few comments coming through. I'll try and get through. Being called worse in a pub in the northeast. I agree there's a line, but it seemed to work. Felt Hardman was way too on the front foot in the first. Thought it was smart in the end. Yeah, mate, look, who knows how you react? Look, I don't know, if someone calls you a racist and you have been, if you've said something racist, well, I suppose there's not really much, you haven't really got much to come back with. But when you're like Harmon, and if you follow him on social media and know him personally, and I think he takes the whole kombucha thing. I can't remember the postcode, whatever they go by up there, the numbers of the postcode. They take it pretty seriously up there as far as the little community goes. And I think the fact that he's, especially as I said before, his fiance and a lot of his friends are of Pacific Islander or Maori descent or whatever, or Papua New Guinean or whatever it might be. I think that did cut deep. So, and I think that did, as I said, affect him. So, but I could just imagine him being called worse, mate. I've never been to an English pub. I actually have been to England a couple of times, but I was fighting at the time, so I never actually made it to the pub scene. But I'm sure some fun and games go on those pubs, mate. But what have we got here? So racist carbs low buy, yet a low blow. Yes, mate. Yeah. So we've gone over that a bit now, but I just thought there was. I will say I thought there was a better way to get under his skin, but maybe there wasn't, because whatever he could have tried could not have worked as well as that. So when Joshua lives to win versus Usyk, you reckon he will, mate? I don't actually think he will, but that's just my opinion. Surely Fury has one more, puts a Joshua myth to bed, then runs off into the sunset. Thoughts on Joyce versus Parker? Yes, I've got that on there to talk about, actually, mate. I only read about that today, and I'm actually really happy to see that. I think, do you think that Joshua beats Usyk? I'm not quite sure. Look, Joshua did it the first time when he beat Andy Ruiz in the rematch. Maybe we get a repeat of that. Usyk's just a different type of fighter. Excuse me. I think if Joshua beats Usyk, I think you might see Tyson Fury be lured back, because let's face it, they could make it $1 million each. So why wouldn't you come back? And I think he hasn't had that full stop on it unless he beats Joshua. I'm not so sure about Usyk. I know we all like Usyk and and all the rest of it. I don't think that's the type of fight that really gets Tyson Fury out of retirement, we'll call it. I think it will take a bit to get him excited. And the only one that does that is Anthony Joshua. I think if Usyk beats Joshua, I don't think you see Fury come back. I don't think the money will be there. I don't think the interest will be there. Well, the interest will be there from fight fans, but I think Tyson needs that challenge. Early in his career is a little bit different, but now he's done all he can do. I just don't see why need to fight Usyk. I really don't. We all love Tyson. I think he's been the best thing that's happened to the sport in a long, long time. I think I mentioned on last week's episode that he's done so much for people. He's probably done a few things for different things. He's done a lot for the mental health part of society, whether it be male or female or boxer versus non-boxer, whatever. And I take my hat off to him for that. I respect him so much for that. He's done so much for the dad bods out there. Anything's possible, isn't it? He looks anything but a fighter, let's face it. But, geez, he puts them together well, and he'll probably go down as one of the best of all time. I've actually got that on my talking points here. I've probably done enough of the Zerafa Hardman thing for tonight, but we'll go on to the Fury and Whyte thing, what you guys thought. Do you think he's first of all, I'll ask, do you think actually I'll get a couple of questions first, and I'll get into the Fury Tyson thing. Actually, probably you got another Zerafa Hardman one there. The dude who sung the anthem, did he really auto-tune it? That's an interesting one, mate. I didn't actually notice that on the night. Did he? He auto-tuned it, did he? There you go. You're offended and you're a pom. Well, you guys take a lot of pride in your anthem, mate. I'm not quite sure the Aussies are as patriotic as the Poms are sometimes, but I didn't actually know that. On the night, I didn't take any notice. I was more focused on the main event itself. But he auto-tuned it. You cheating bugger. Yeah, there you go. So I wasn't aware of that, mate. But if you did, shame on you. Get someone that can do it properly. What do we got here? Paul, great to have you on board, Paul. I was waiting to hear your point of view. Hope fans know Shotgun is still recovering from a shoulder injury before taking on knee. Yes, I spoke to Shannon last week. And if you follow her on social media, you'll see that she's back mainly using the right hand. I think she's maybe just started using the left hand in a really light sort of way. So, yeah, I think knowing Shannon, she'd fight next week. She can be very, very stubborn, very stubborn. And she'd fight next week if she could. This is a lady, by the way, who was doing crunches and back in the boxing train, I think, a month after having her third child, by the way. So, good point, Paul. Thanks for bringing that up, mate. Yeah, so a bit away of wanting that fight. But knowing her, if Neeks wanted to fight her, what is it now? End of April, maybe, June or July, I reckon Shannon will be 100% up for that fight. She wants Neeks right or wrong. She wants Eddie Bridges right or wrong. She'll fight anyone. She'd probably fight Tyson Fury if you let her. She's just like that. That's what we all love about Shannon. But as I said earlier, I probably didn't give Neeks enough coverage earlier in the show. But look, full credit to her. She won the world title. She's worked extremely hard for it, so good luck to her. I would love to see the rematch. Don't forget, Shotgun or Shannon O'Connell is the one that actually beat Neeks in a fight prior to this world title win. So, in my mind, should have had the world title shot anyway. But all that aside, I think Neeks will want that fight. Whether or not her management let her fight Shannon, especially first up, is another thing, I suppose, to consider. Maybe get a couple of defenses under her belt. But knowing the fighter mentality, I think Neeks would want that fight. But I still think Shannon gets the nod. What else have we got there? What have we got there? This is my wife. What is she saying? Probably our two boys and I were having a chuckle about the anthem situation too. You just made me spit my water out. Now, yeah, Phil, I and my wife actually hasn't even told me about this, by the way. Why that happened? I'm not quite sure. See, this is completely off topic, but if you're like me and you're a kid or whatever you want to call it of the 80s and 90s, this is what's wrong with music today. Don't get me started on the music side of things. Because I grew up in the 80s and 90s when it was all the metal glam rock in the 80s and all the grunge and that in the 90s. So I can't stand the music today and the artists. So to hear that they're auto-tuning the national anthem, well, that's just disgraceful. Probably yes, the worst thing I've ever heard. Well, now I'm going to have to go back and watch that and just see what happened. So if you're actually the guy that did that and you're watching this, I doubt he is, but that's disgraceful. What do they say? Hopefully the next good thing to come out of music is artists actually having talent. If you can, surely you can have enough talent to sing the national anthem. Geez, over Anzac Day we heard it about a dozen times, and the men and ladies that sung it did an awesome job. So I hope they didn't do that as well. So, yes, Pommy, you've started something here. I was left shaking my head. Dude couldn't even learn the bloody words. So can you just educate me on what the auto-tune involves? So it's not the music, it's actually the words, is it? It gives you the backing vocals like the karaoke or something, does it? Anyway, but we'll move on from that. We could be here all night. All right, Pommy, another comment. Think he does. If it goes to distance, no chance. But new trainer has been super vocal on bullying their opponents. Think if Joshua remembers he's massive and gets on front foot leads on. This is talking about Joshua and Fury here. Goes to distance, no chance. But new trainers, yeah, we'll see, mate. Look, I hope. I hope for one that Joshua actually wins the rematch. I want to see the Joshua Fury fight. But as I said, the only way that happens is if Joshua beats Usyk. And the other thing is, too, what happens to Joshua if Usyk beats him again? Is it career over? Where does he go? I'd love to know. And that's why I was a little bit dubious about wanting to take the fight, because he's a definite chance of beating Joshua for a third time. So, a second time. So, yeah, what happens to Joshua? Yeah, it'd be an interesting one. What do we got here? Rowan, thanks for joining the conversation, mate. Fury is great, but personally, I rate Lennox Lewis higher from the UK heavyweights, let alone all-time globally. What was another thing I was going to put on there, mate? Where does he rank in the scheme of things? Top 10 of all time. Definitely for me, he's in the top 10 now. We did our top 10 all-time heavyweights of all time late last year, I think it was, on the Deep Dive show. I didn't have Tyson Fury there, and obviously there's a reason why he hadn't fought Wilder. I think the second or third time then, and obviously hadn't beaten Dillian Whyte. So I'm with you. I rate Lennox Lewis higher at this stage. I think Lennox Lewis is the number one UK heavyweight of all time, and definitely the top 10 pound for pound, top 10 all-time heavyweights, Lennox Lewis. So I think as much as I love Tyson Fury, I think if he had the Joshua win, maybe that would elevate him. But for me, Lennox Lewis has got the better resume, and I think he takes Fury's spot at number one. Fury, probably number two. What do we got there? Probably he looked like an oldie version of Post Malone. Thought it was a joke at first and not realize he was doing it. I've got to go back and watch this replay. Now, I think he did the anthems for the Shanika Johnson fight as well, I think. And again, I didn't even notice that either. So let's correct this going forward, promoters. Get some decent bloody singers out there, some good ones out there. Just make it happen. The singer was dreadful. Carl Paul, I don't think it was that bad, was he? But now, having said that he had the auto cue behind him, then maybe we won't give as much leeway. But look, I must admit, I was totally focused on the fight at that time. I was watching the fighters' preparations and what was they were doing in their corners. So it was interesting, but I must admit, as I said, I didn't really take any notice. Andrew, I hope AJ lets those bloody hands go. Amen. He can't outbox the master boxer Usyk, but seems AJ doubts his chin. I got Usyk. Loved to see undisputed, but Tyson Fury collected every belt. Love to see. Okay, sorry, love to see undisputed, but Tyson Fury collected every belt already. Yeah, I don't think it matters what belts Usyk or Joshua hold. I think everyone, would agree that Tyson Fury is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He's the lineal champion. So I think Tyson Fury for me, but I do agree though. Let the hands go. One thing about AJ is he tends to be. I think after Ruiz beat him, he just seems to have gone into his shoulder a little bit more. And yeah, you're right. Doesn't let those hands go. He seems to be very reactive. Whereas before he backed himself, and maybe he's a confidence type of fighter. From what I've heard about people that have met Anthony Joshua and been involved in amateur teams and all that with him. Is very, very confidence driven. So sometimes all it takes is a fight like that to lose against Ruiz, and the fire just leaves the belly. So who knows? But the Usyk fight was a strange one. You're right, he didn't let the hands go, and I don't look between me and all you guys out there watching. I'm still not sold on Usyk. I think he did the job to beat Joshua, but I'm not that wrapped in him as a fighter. I know he's done some great things, but I'd still think I'm not a massive rat for him. But I think AJ's definitely got the tools to beat Usyk. It's whether or not he uses them to get the job done. So I suppose we'll see. More on the Joshua fight. Joshua loses, it will be Whyte. Joshua 3 for is that the Moolah? I think that says. Then he probably gets battered by Wilder. And then that's that. Super overrated is Joshua. Just quietly, I reckon if I got the gym, I'd win in 3. Is that right? Over Josh? Geez, you pommies, you lay the boots in pretty quick over there. I thought us Aussies were bad. I would love to actually see that, Pommy. I'm sure you'd handle yourself for maybe about 5 seconds before she reached you, I think. But good to see you thinking like that. It's an interesting one. If he does lose, would it be Whyte Joshua 3? I'm not sure. Would people pay to see that? I was really disappointed in Dillian Whyte. I actually thought he was a chance to maybe cause the upset over Fury. I did obviously pick Fury, but I just thought Whyte had the chance to beat him because it depends on what mindset Fury came in with, whether he was an autopilot who was really up for it. Luckily, he was for it. I'm not sure whether they would, even the Poms would really welcome Whyte Joshua 3, but we'll see. Here we go. If AJ loses second Usyk fight versus Wilder, still a huge fight. Yeah, AJ versus Wilder fight. Again, who knows what's going to happen in that? I think talent-wise, AJ has it all over Wilder, but I don't think right up until the last 10 seconds of the 12th round, you'd feel safe because if Wilder lands one right hand on Joshua, that's just fact. Wilder has shown that he's got just bricks for gloves. So I think he irons AJ out if he can land it. On the other hand, if AJ boxes smart, but 12 rounds is a long time when you're in there with a puncher like Wilder. And it doesn't matter how tight he gets or anything else, he's always roundabout. So, yeah, some big things happening there. I think it was mentioned before about Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker. I really like that fight. I didn't see that it's being proposed for July. So, I think Joyce can win that one. That's my camera goes a bit blurry there. I think Joyce can win that one. Parker, for me, really good boxer, does everything all around pretty well. But I'm just not quite sure he's got that, that X factor to go to that next level. So I would actually tip Joe Joyce to win that one. But who knows with heavyweights these days, I suppose. Agree. What's that? Pommy. I reckon he would go to Whyte for the rivalry if he wins onto Wilder, but reckon Wilder is a real winner if Fury retires. Do you reckon Wilder will be back? There's another question to answer, because you talk about shattered egos. Well, this is a guy that probably saw himself in the Mike Tyson category. We all saw that Mike, once he lost to Douglas, was never the same. That aura, invincibility was never the same from his opponents and also himself. I'm not sure Wilder can come back. I'm not. I would love it if he did, because I think the sport would be a hell of a lot better. I think we need Wilder in fights against Usyk or Joshua. But I'm just not quite sure whether he's got the mental capacity to be back. I hope I'm wrong. But sometimes these guys, they just get caught up in this whole world of their invincibility. They get exposed. Fury really took Wilder to pieces physically and, more importantly, mentally. I'm not quite sure he's got as I said, the capacity to come back. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I suppose time will tell. Just before we get off the Fury and Whyte fight, do you think, do you back up the Whyte claims after the fight that it was an illegal push? I think it was a load of bullshit, but technically he was right. He clipped him with the right uppercut. Dillian Whyte pretty much froze on the spot, and Tyson Fury gave him a push. Technically, it was illegal. I think the referee, as you would, sort of just steered Fury to the neutral corner and stopped the fight when Whyte got up. I think it was probably digging, or clutching at straws from Dillian Whyte. I think he would have got a few more credits if he had to just say, look, I wasn't, I didn't like the push and I think it was illegal, but I got beat fair and square. But boxers, we can't take a loss. If you know a boxer, we've never lost a fight ever, any of us. We've all been ripped off in every single fight we've ever lost. But yeah, I think that was grasping. So it's interesting to hear what you guys have to say about that one. And as I say that, Ross, you've brought the point up. What do you think of Whyte talking about the uppercut? Didn't knock him out. He was definitely buzzed by. You're right. That was actually the other point he made. He was buzzed by the uppercut, but wasn't knocked out by the uppercut. It was that he's hitting the canvas that did the damage in the end. Look, I suppose the only one that knows that is Dillian Whyte. Look, either way, Fury won the fight. Whyte was never going to win it. I thought he was lucky to win one round up to then. But technically, I suppose, look, who knows what would have happened if it had been the other way around and Fury had won the first 5 rounds and Whyte clipped him and then pushed him over and Fury hit his head and knocked himself out. I don't know. A lot of what ifs, mate. A little bit like what if Braden Maynard wasn't blocked in the grand final. Anyway, we won't go there. Or Anthony Rocker's shot for goal wasn't deemed a point instead of a goal. We can go on all the Collingwood. What if Ross is a Collingwood supporter, guys? If you're wondering, a lot of what ifs out there. All I'm saying is you either win or you lose. Collingwood didn't win either of those grand finals, and neither did Dillian Whyte. What have we got here? Pommy. Wilder, I think, will come back. Well, I hope you're right, mate. When you have that punch, you are never out of it. I think destiny is Wilder versus Joshua. Yeah, I would hope so, mate. Whyte was horrible. Yes, gutted because you love Whyte, but Guy is a level below. Yeah, look, and the other Pommy over there too, that Derek Chisora, he probably goes a little bit the same for them. They seem to get all these big fights, but never really come up to the mark. They sort of beat that B level opposition, but really struggle when they get up. And not just, I think, ability-wise, it's almost like they doubt themselves when they get there. They get there and they almost go through the motions and accept that they're going to lose before they even start. So, I don't know. That's probably a little bit harsh. But to me, not at one stage really went after Fury and tried to take him out. And, who knows? When you're in a fight of that magnitude, 94,000 people, if you will, a couple of episodes past and I'll stick by it. The home of boxing, world boxing, England. That's where they come out in droves. So forget about Las Vegas. London, England, or anywhere in England is the way to go. But that's another episode. But yeah, they just seem to struggle to rise to the occasion for one reason or another. And maybe a little bit back in the day, like a Frank Bruno struggled as well. I think his problems more so related to ability. I think Frank had all the heart in the world. He was a great fella. Everyone loved him. But ability-wise, just couldn't quite get to the level. And when he did get to that A level, just found himself on the receiving end a few times. I've got to just put this one in there from Ross. Mate, I wasn't hanging shit on Collingwood. 2018, yeah. And I was actually sitting beside Ross at the game. And I'd like to say I feel sorry for you, Ross, but I didn't. All right, I might have said on the day I did, but I didn't. And if you know me, I'm a mad Carlton supporter. So, you know, you got to lay the boots into Collingwood as much as possible. So, what do we got here? Left hook after that right uppercut would have been more scary. Mate, 100% Rowan. And I think that was the flip side of what Dillian Whyte said, is that really instead of pushing him, he could have actually thrown a left hook and it would have been even worse. And who knows what might have happened after that, because he was in a bad way. He just sort of froze on the spot, didn't he? And Tyson, yeah, as I said, he could have thrown the left hook or even another straight right hand, which probably would have been even worse again. And, you know, who knows what might have happened. So I'm pretty happy with the result. Technically, you could make a case that it was that, you know, he pushed him and he said at the canvas, but, you know, that's just, as I said, clutching at straws. Who we got here? Paul Haraba. Oh, we're on to the footy. Quick footy question before we get back to the boxing. How good is Sam Walsh? His father's unbelievable too. Sam Walsh, he's the absolute gun young player of the competition. There is no competition as far as of that draft goes. We all know there's been plenty of speculation about the others in the draft, and it was a super draft. Sam Walsh is an absolute little legend, destined to be the Carlton captain one day. Don't know much about his father. I have read about him, seen some comments. So I'm sure you would have known a lot about him down there, Paul, from your neck of the woods. But yeah, so there it is. But we'll get back onto the boxing. Appreciate the footy talk, mate. And go Blues. You better get it done against North this week, or else I'm not coming on next week. We got there, Pommy, another Carlton man. Joyce deserves a shot. If he wins versus Parker, we'd love to see him fight Whyte. Yeah, no, 100%, mate. I really agree with that. I think if he beats Parker, I think the winner of that should get the fight with Whyte, or even depends on what else he happens to Tyson Fury. And we know that Parker's not going to fight Fury because they're best mates, even though money talks. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense, mate. I think if Joyce beats Parker, as I said, I think he will. I think Whyte or Wilder or whoever, I think he deserves his shot after that. So good young fighter is Joe Joyce. And Andy there, mate. We've got Wilder is away on spiritual mission to rediscover himself. Is that a fact? I wasn't quite aware of that. Going to South America to try whatever the hell that is. Might be a one-way trip. We'll see. Yeah, geez, I wasn't aware of that, mate. So, look, maybe he's gone over there to do what he's got to do to get it right, and I have no issue with that. At this level of this sport, very, very dangerous. We sometimes lose track of how dangerous this sport is. Sometimes we get a really harsh reminder about how dangerous and unforgiving this sport is. So, I think he's got to go over there because he comes back, especially heavyweights. We've seen what can happen there. Get yourself right and either do that or retire. And if he did retire, I don't think he'd have much trouble sort of bowing out the way he did. Having said that, the Warriors code is that do you really want to leave on those terms where he lost his title? I would think he's the type of guy that's going to want to try and go out on top. Having said that, though, the way he went out against Fury, if that's the way he did go out, he went out on his shield. He could not have done anything more than what he did. So he'd have my full respect as a fight fan. But as I said, as the Warriors' way is that you've got to go out on your own terms. So I would hope he gets another crack at one of these guys, these big guys, in the near future. Pommy, we're not. What do we got here? Looking forward to seeing Flip. Yes. I don't know much about him, to be honest, mate. I have heard some stuff about him. You can probably enlighten us. I'm not going to try and pronounce names. Someone's asked me to pass about it. I can't pronounce it. I'm not going to embarrass myself on here. But yeah, I don't know much about them. Pommy, I'm glad you spend as much time on boxing as you do on footy, because you know more about him than what I do. I will definitely check that fight out, and we'll see. But yeah, as I don't lie and pretend I know too much about him. Thanks, mate, for Bark. They talk to spirits. Okay, so is that a bit like the mushrooms, peyote, whatever it is they have in Mexico, where they talk to the spirits, get into the spirit world, as in Young Guns? I'm not sure, but I wasn't aware of that either, mate. So again, all the best to Wilder, and hopefully he comes back. One who was forgotten in the heavyweight division is Otto Wallen. Yeah, I don't know about that, mate. He ran Tyson Fury close. He is dangerous, which is probably why those heavyweights will stay right away from him, to be honest. He's dangerous. He doesn't bring a lot to the table, I don't think, as far as appeal to the fans goes, or the paper, or the the TV networks. He's one of those unfortunate guys. A lot of risk, not a lot of reward. And I know he gave Tyson a really good fight, but was Tyson really? I think it was one of those occasions where Tyson went in there and just went through the motions. It was a tune-up fight to get back in the swing of things. So I'm not sure, but yeah, look, you never know. That's what's good about the heavyweight division at the moment. There's a few of these guys getting around, which is better than we had about 6-7 years ago when it was all the Klitschko's. That wasn't a very good time for boxing, I don't think. So we need a healthy, vibrant heavyweight division, and at the time it was anything but. Excuse me. Tyson's right hand helped him talk to spirits to invade. Yeah, no, he did. You're right. Good way to point that out, actually. Yeah, he did. But with all jokes aside with Wilder, I hope he does come back, because I think the boxing world needs him. I think if we had, depending on what happens with Fury, hopefully he comes back. But if we've obviously got Joshua, we've got Usyk, we've got Joyce, we've got Joseph Parker. Wilder comes back, I just think that would really keep the wheels churning as heavyweight divisions goes. Did you see the size of that chicken? Yeah, sorry, I had to. If you haven't seen Young Guns, if you haven't seen it, then maybe get a life. We've all seen Young Guns in the spirit world with the peyote or peyote. We've still got a lot of messages coming through, so we'll keep going as long as we have to. Where's my man Noonan Boy? Well, I don't know. He's been wanting to come on the show for a while, on our weekly show, that is. I did see him at the fights last week. I didn't get a chance to actually say good day, because he was running around for his Noonan Boy Promotions channel. He does so much good thing. He's got a lot of contacts in the sport. If you don't know him, he's the Fight Hype what do you call it? Consultant, or whatever you call it, in Australia. So he does a lot for Aussie boxing. He knows everyone in the industry, really promotes the sport really well. So if you are watching at some stage, Noonan Boy or Nick, come on anytime you want. So if you do ever want to come on, guys, I haven't mentioned it for a little while, but the link's in there somewhere if you want to come on for a chat. If you want to trust the internet connection, I'll put it in there again. Thanks, Paul, mate. Great show. Keep up these lives. 100% boxing needs more of this. Well, thanks, mate. Well, it's only as good as what you guys allow it to be, so I really appreciate that. The show is what you guys are rolling out. As I said, it is pretty hard to talk to yourself for an hour, so I really appreciate you, or an hour and a half, whatever it might be. I really appreciate you guys coming on and keeping talking, because I'll keep going as long as the questions and comments keep coming through. So the top 10, we've gone through that with the Fury and Whyte situation. Whether you see him in the top 10, as I said, I probably don't at this stage. I would have Lennox Lewis above him. Just a quick couple of things, guys. The Kambosos undercard. Team Maloney is officially on the cards. Andrew and Jason will be on that undercard. I'm not quite sure who they'll be fighting yet. I've got a feeling they'll probably put them in with similar type of opponents they had for the most recent fights. Tough, durable guys that will give them rounds, but maybe not necessarily big punches or anything like that. So great to have the Maloney's on there. That in itself just underlines the undercard right there, doesn't it? Definitely worth the dollars to put into the event. The top 10. Now, before I go, I just want to run over this and get your quick points. I probably don't want to open the hornet's nest here. We'll be here all night. But I'm going to share my screen. Now, I don't sort of do this. I'm not really quite sure. We'll give it a try. There it is. That's the Australian top 10. That's the way I had it on the deep dive show last week. Your thoughts: Kambosos, Zoo, Maloney, Jay Maloney, A Maloney, Jay Pataya. There's a top 5. Liam Paro 6, Michael Zerafa 7, Shannon O'Connell 8, Dempsey McKean 9, Paul Fleming 10. Now, the Oz Boxing did a top 10 as well. They actually had Michael Zerafa at number 6, Liam Paro down at number 9 behind Liam Wilson and Brock Jarvis. Now, is it just me, but I can't see how you would have Michael Zerafa. You might make an argument above Liam Paro, who's fighting for the world title hopefully later this year as well. How you'd make a case for Liam Paro and Brock Jarvis above Liam Paro, who's, as I said, going to fight for that world title. I love Liam Wilson and Brock Jarvis. I think they're great talents and will be stars of the future, but I'm not quite sure how you can have two relatively unproven guys above a guy that's just about to fight for a world title. So interesting to hear what you guys think. Oz Boxing didn't have Shannon O'Connell in the top 10, which again staggered me as well. So we could be here all night talking about that one, but just interested to hear what you have to say about that. So I think the top 5 is indisputable, but the others interesting. Paul, I'll just jump out of that. Paul Haraba again. What have we got? Will you be going to Kambosos fight? Also, do you know when the event will confirm the undercard? As far as the undercard, mate, goes, well, as I said, there's 2 fights automatically confirmed already. Terry Nicholas will be part of that event as well. So there's 3 fights there. I'm assuming Terry Nicholas, I don't think they'll probably give him an 8-rounder. They'll be conscious of the amount of time the undercard goes. I would think even one of the Maloney's might be a 10, the other one might be an 8, like they did on their most recent card. Terry Nicholas, I would maybe think they would put maybe even a 6-rounder. There's 24 rounds on the undercard already. And that's without the main event. So if you're looking at a 3 to 4 hour window, we haven't got a lot there. So, excuse me. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think when's the fight? We're about 6 weeks away. I don't think you'll see the card really start to take some shape until maybe 3 to 4 weeks out. I think that's when they'll start really, putting the asterisk beside him and underline him as being. And you might get the A side might be, announced pretty soon, but I don't think even up to 3 or 4 weeks before we get a really indication of the undercard. And will I be going? No, unfortunately. Always great timing on my behalf. I booked a trip to America for that time. I'll be over there for the international inductions in Canastota, New York. So city at the time. So looking forward to that. But yeah, shattered that I can't be there. But it was booked a while back before this fight was announced. So I can't really do much about it now, and I need to get back over there. I haven't been for 3 years. So what have we got there, mate? Thank you. There's the first one. I agree with your list. Appreciate that, mate. Look, not to say who's right or wrong. It's just my opinion. Look, I'll put it back up there just quickly before we move on. I'm not sure how you could not have Shannon O'Connell in the top 10. Although she's not a world champion, and we've got 2 world champions, the females at the moment, Winnie Bridges and Nix Johnson, who aren't in there either. So there's a lot of ones you can make a case for. But yeah, Dempsey McKean, Paul Fleming. I'm sure you can make a case for maybe Liam Wilson and Brock Jarvis maybe being over those 2. But as I said, I can't see how you have Liam Wilson and Brock Jarvis, as great as they've been, above Liam Paro. That's just, again, my opinion. Paul Fleming, there's been talk that he might be on the undercard too, mate. So just look out for that he will be on the undercard of Kambosos and Haney. So it's awarded to go under the bridge there. Big fan of Paul Fleming. By all accounts, he's a great guy as well. Got all the ability in the world. So I think, that he will be back. So, yeah, don't be surprised if he lands on that undercard. What do we got here? Man, you got some good fighters down there. I'm not quite sure. I'm assuming you're from America based on that. Some good fighters. Yes, to answer your question, we've got some very, very good fighters down there. And it's amazing, mate. I'm talking about Boxing IQ Tawa C. I'll put his comment back up there. Yes, mate, I don't think it's been in a healthier position for quite some time. We've had some golden eras in Australian boxing, but I don't think it's ever been at the point where we've had so many fighters either being world champion or about to challenge for a world championship or in line very, very soon to be fighting for world titles. I mean, you look at the top 7 or 8 of that list there. When you look at what do we got? Kambosos already is a world champion. Bridges and Johnson are already world champions. Tim Tszyu will fight for a title. Both Maloneys have fought for world titles and held world titles. Whether they get another shot soon, I'm 100% sure they will. Jai Patai will fight for world title. I think they announced that the other day. I can't remember. It's in July. Para will fight for world titles. Zerafa will fight for world titles. Shannon O'Connell has and will fight for world titles. So, yeah, I don't think in this, for as long as I can remember, we've had maybe up to 10 fighters that have either got world titles or about to fight for world titles. So it's a real feather in the cap of all the teams in Australian boxing at the moment. There's a lot of them that have got their fighters in this position. Paul, my first boxing event. I'm super happy to be able to attend. I didn't actually know that, Paul. Oh, sorry, my wife's first boxing event. Mate, she'll love it. It is, you're going to pick a first event to go to. Obviously, it's got to be this one. Kambosos and Haney. Geez, doesn't get any bigger than that, I suppose, does it? So that's awesome, mate. I'm sure she'll have a great time, and hope you treat her to a weekend in Melbourne, mate. I'm sure you've got the suite at the Crown Casino and the roses and champagne and all that ready to go. But it's going to be awesome, mate. I'm just so happy for Australian boxing and Melbourne boxing, especially being a Victorian myself. Obviously got a soft spot for Victorian boxing, and we haven't had a big fight down here or of this magnitude for quite some time. So on top of the Zerafa Hardman fight, I think it'll be great. And who knows what might happen. I think there are murmurings that maybe even Tim Tszyu will fight here at some stage in a big fight as well. Definitely Nikita will fight here in his quest to go up the ratings. So stay tuned for that one as well. Speaking of heavyweights, I wonder how quick Hoodie can run the ranks. Well, there's another one that's not in the top 10, but quite easily could have been. I think he'll rise really quick. I think the way the progression they've got planned for Justice Hoodie is that they will make him rise really quickly. I think you'll see him fight when he gets going again, which is June. I haven't got the day. I know it was announced just the other day. June 15th, I think it might be. I think you'll see him fight another 3 times for the year after that. They'll try and fast track him, I would think. And don't be surprised if after, look, I think they might get 12 to 15 fights in really quick, and then they'll really look to step him up. And knowing the way that Dean Lonergan and Stuart Duncan have done in the past, I think they'll maneuver him very, very smartly in the rankings to get him in line for a voluntary shot and then watch him go. I think they've got the contacts to really make things happen with him. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he gets palmed off to, or not palmed off, but handed off to a top rank or someone like that. Around that time, so they can really cash in on some bucks. So yeah, to answer your question, mate, I think within, what is it now? 2022. I would say by late 2023, you might see him putting his hand up for a shot at the world title. Pobby, what do we got there, mate? Would love to see Zerafa Eubank fight in Melbourne for a title. Geez, that'd be fireworks, wouldn't it? Guarantee Chris would target that as he would see it as the easy route. I'll be honest with you, mate. I don't think Chris, well, unless Zerafa's got the world title, of course, I couldn't see Chris Eubank wanting to come to Australia. It's just my thought. I'm not a massive rap for Chris Eubank, and I'm not trying not to be laying the boots into Chris. I just think he's such a great talent. I think he's got all the ability in the world, but he's got this thing. He's trying to be someone he's not. Now, I know Roy Jones Jr. is training you now, but his last fight that he fought, he tried to fight like Roy Jones Jr. Now, it's great that you've got him as your coach. It's great that you're taking on board who he's trying, but why are you trying to be Roy Jones Jr.? There's only one way that's going to end, and that's him getting clipped, especially if it's against a Canelo or a Triple G or one of these guys, or even a Charlo. I just see him getting chinned. I really do. If he took on board what Roy's trying to try and teach him, and he's trying to take on board that sort of thing, I think he's got more scope for progressing. But from what I saw in his last fight, I think he's on a long, long way to go. But yeah, to answer your question, I think I would love to see it, but I've got a feeling they would throw the bucks at Zerafa and get him to fight Eubank in England. I don't think Australia's got the ability. Well, Zerafa's promoters, I don't think have the ability to generate the sort of cash to Eubank to Australia. And I don't think Eubank them any favour and come out to Australia and make it nice and easy for them when they can take it back to England and do it over there. So that's probably the only downside to Zerafa winning the world title. That's probably why I think they would really go after Tim Tszyu if they could. Massive bucks in Australia for him if that was the case. But yeah, as I said, I don't think the Zerafa's promoters have got the money or the backing to get a Eubank fight done in Australia. But yeah, I would love to see that fight too, mate, to answer your questions. I'll go through a couple of here because we've got a few coming through. Any substance to Mundine Green 3? I did mention this. I'm not sure I mentioned on this last week's show or the show before that. Yes, I've heard murmurings that is the case. I'm really hoping that one, Chock has secondary thoughts about it or second thoughts about the whole thing. 2, Danny Green has second thoughts about it. 3, the people around Chock have second thoughts about it. More importantly, the powers that be, the combat board, say, guys, we understand you all want to make money, but we've got a role to play. So no, we're not going to allow that to happen. That's what I would love to happen. Not to take it out of the hands of Green and Mundine and their teams. I would take it out of the hands, and I would love for the combat board to say, no, not going to happen. Because what have we got combat boards for, guys? Really, what have we got them for? They're there to look after the health and well-being, to make sure there's hopefully no mismatches happening, and the police what's going on at these shows. Don't just show up the free feed on fight night and go around shaking hands at ringside like they all do and whatever. It's to see what you're employed to do and make the right call. I hate to see Mundine Green 3. And I'm with you. I'm hoping that for Chock's health, somewhere in the line, a line gets put through it and gets put to bed. What do we got here? Chock Peppers, 200-meter walking distance, and most definitely got her sorted. Wife visually impaired, so got us as close as possible in the seating area. Sorry, that's Paul. Yep. Awesome. Great, mate. 200 meters walking distance. Yep. Awesome, mate. That's great. No, that's awesome, mate, that you've got her as close as you can. I'm sure that you would have paid for the privilege, but I'm really happy that that her first fight is going to be that one, mate, because it'll be one that she'll never forget. So I hope you have a great night, mate. Pobby, surely not. Sad to see Mundine out. Yeah, it is, mate. Look, there's no way getting that. I think the fights have definitely took a toll on Chock over the years. And why make it any worse? It's not like in his last fight. Well, he got knocked in the first round in 2 of his last 3 fights. Really, Horn and obviously Zerafa in between the fight with Blaine Parr, more of an exhibition more than anything that fight. But if you talk to him, you see his body language. That it's not good. It's not good. There's not much else to say. We've all seen him. We've seen his last few fights, and look, regardless of whether his faculties and all that are okay, he's been completely wiped out in 2 of his last 3 fights. And for them to put the hand out to the Australian boxing public, I think would be taking the piss. Okay, so yeah. Good to see, Paul. You'll be treating her to a nice romantic weekend as well. So good to see, mate. Isn't Brooke? There's talk about it, mate. I don't know. I think that makes a lot more sense, but I'm not sure. And just look, if you're Eubank, mate, you're a super middleweight. Why are you fighting a welterweight for? Come on. Well, I know he can make middleweight. He has fought at super middleweight. I don't know. I would love for Eubank to fight if you get the opportunity, of course, it's not going to happen soon, is the Triple Gs or Charlos. They're the ones that he's going to be defined as, fighting, even Zerafa, Cal Brook. I don't know. Maybe I'm not trying to be too harsh on Eubank here, but I'm sorry, I'm just not seeing it at the moment. I just don't respect him yet. Because I just think he needs to learn a bit of class. Does young Chris Jr. Pommy. There you go, putting it more eloquently. I hate Eubank. Loved his dad, but most unlikable. I was trying to be polite, by the way, Pommy. I know he's one of your countrymen, but I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. Hopefully, fights my boy Cal, and Cal knocks him back to where he came from. I would hope to see that too, mate. But I just got a feeling that Cal's a little bit too small. We saw that when Cal went up against Triple G. Make no mistake, Eubank's not Triple G, of course. But, yeah, I'm just not sure whether Cal has got it in him to go up that amount of weight. You got to know Cal will be going up to, I know they're trying to go for a catch weight at maybe 156. Eubank, I think, said he might be able to make 158. He would still rehydrate to maybe mid 170s. That's a lot of weight to put on. So, and Cal Brook wouldn't really rehydrate that much. He would probably come in at 156 or 158 and probably not rehydrate to much more than maybe 164, 165 or something like that. So, yeah, look, for Cal, hey, mate, if I was in Cal's position, I'd be taking the fight with Eubank in a second. He's only got maybe one big fight left in him. So, really, it's not a matter of whether he's going to win or not. I think his legacy is pretty much done and dusted anyway. As far as being an all-time great in English boxing, he's won world titles, he's made some money. Make as much money as you can. So get that fight, take it. But I just don't think he's a chance, unfortunately, of beating Chris Eubank. And I'm with you, Pommy. I loved his dad. We did a classic fight a few weeks back with him and Nigel Benn, which was awesome. It was great to revisit both of those fights, especially the first one. But I loved his dad as well. Very well spoken too. A typical English gentleman, if you will. Got a couple more coming through here. Another one from you, Pommy. We'll go another one from you. Chris wants the money fights, almost one of the exhibitions. Yep. I think he's a classic guy, mate, who loves to talk it up, but not quite keen on backing it up. So he wants those big money fights without the risk. And that's why he's calling out the Cal Brooks of the world. I think guys like Triple G, Charlo, and heaven forbid he got the Canelo, would just eat him up and chew him out. So maybe he gets an easier type of world title fight. Look, if Zerafa happens to win that title fight, it makes 100% sense for Eubank to target him to get that title, which then puts him in a better bargaining position. But if he goes after the Canelos and Triple Gs and Charlos of the world, geez, we might be in a bit of trouble there. What have we got here, Paul? Any chance are you heading near my Emmy when you're in the States of Denver? No, mate. I'm only there for about 12 days. I land in LA, I stay overnight, fly to New York. I think I'm there for 4 nights. Then I fly to Buffalo. I stay there for a night, I think, or 2 nights it might be. I've got to catch up with a couple of friends from Canada at the border. And I'm driving across to Canastota, which is about a 2.5 hour to 3 hour trip. So then I'm flying out after that. So not much time to get down to Miami, mate. But I have got some plans in the future to get over to the States and just get in the car, have a landing date, have a leaving date, and have about 4 to 6 weeks in between with nothing planned and just drive. So I would love to do that, mate. Paul again. Eubank has soft hands and thinks he's a Mayweather the second. Well, I'm not sure it's Mayweather, but definitely Roy Jones Jr., mate. His dad made the statement that he better. Ha, never happened. No, never happened, never will. I'm with you, mate. I think he's a very, very watered down version of his dad. And the thing is with his dad, at least his dad got in there with the Bens and the Michael Watsons and all these types of guys. He didn't care. He got in with all the all these good guys and fought them all. He lost a few, of course, but you get your respect that way. And I just don't hate this era. I don't like this era where it's all based on wins and losses. You're based on your legacy, not just wins and losses. And that's why someone like Sugar Ray Robinson, of course, Muhammad Ali, and all these guys lost multiple fights, and regarded as some of the all-time greats. The one exception to the rule for me is Floyd Mayweather Jr. I don't care what a lot of his haters say. Yep, he's 50-0, but he's also, for me, in the top 5 all-time ever of all divisions. So don't come at me. That's my actually top 3. I would even have Floyd Mayweather Jr. all time, even though he had the record. But he backed it up. He beat, regardless of when and where he fought them, he beat every single top line fighter of his era, and he beat them all. So I'll get on before I get blown out of the water about that one. But I agree with you, mate. Nowhere near what his dad was. A bit on Chris Eubank tonight. A bit like Bono Diaz out on something that happened years ago. I don't really know who that is, mate. You might have to enlighten me on that one. If he was called Chris Thompson, no one would take him seriously. Saunders schooled him. Yeah, I didn't mention that before, mate. He absolutely schooled him, 100%. I know that was a few years ago, and I'd love to see a rematch, but I don't think it'd be any different. And we saw him fight, who did he fight? Groves as well. He got schooled in that one as well. So just because you got Roy Jones Jr. in your corner, mate, doesn't make you Roy Jones Jr. So as they like to say in American boxing, stay in your lane until it's time to put the indicator on and veer out and take on the big boys. So Poppy, again, mate, I don't know who that is. I don't know Diaz or Dines or whatever his name is. If you can enlighten us, we'll move on until you respond. With his record, Eubank should be fighting for a title already. Shake my head, Munguia, swerve champs. Yep, you're right about Munguia, mate. Same applies to him. Triple G, Jamal, and Andre too. I'm assuming SMH means shake my head. So enlighten me if I've got that wrong. Yeah, no, you are probably right, mate. I think Eubank and Munguia are probably on level terms as far as probably where the standing in the sport goes. But at least Munguia, I think, will have no drama stepping up and fighting those guys, in my opinion. Whereas Eubank, I think, won't fight those guys unless he's dragged into the ring kicking and screaming, I think. But yeah, I think it's a bit harsh to say Munguia has avoided Triple J Andre too. He's only just moved up to middleweight, of course. But yeah, time will tell. Good young fighter, but definitely not, he's definitely had a lot more, credits and praise and probably what he's been entitled to, Munguia. And I don't think he looked overly impressive against Rosado either. So the jury's still out on him as well. Geez, we've got a bit going on here tonight, so we'll keep going. Who are Nikita Zoo and Harry Garside fighting? Nikita is fighting Mason Smith, a guy from Melbourne, 5-0 with 2 knockouts. Good young kid. Puts them together very, very well and will give Nikita a tough fight. Having said that, they're not going to put Nikita in with anyone that's going to be a real danger to him at this stage of his career. But I like the fact that they're going to give him a tough fight. The first one was just to get out the road. Don't worry about his first guy. That was just doesn't matter about the result or the credentials. That was get the pro debut out of the road. Mason Smith will take it up to him. He's a good, young, tough kid. Nowhere near the tools to beat Nikita, in my opinion. But we'll give him some rounds and we'll progress to the next one. I'm hoping after that, Tassie's boy, Bo Melbourne, will get the crack at him after that, but we'll see what happens there. Bo's got a fight to get through before that happens, or maybe even 2. Harry Garside is fighting Leighton McFerrin, the Tasmanian. I've promoted Leighton 2 or 3 times, I think it is. Really good, young, honest fighter is Leighton McFerrin. Again, I don't think he's got the tools to beat Harry, but he's definitely got the tools to give Harry some good rounds. And don't be surprised if he takes in the full 10 or 8 or whatever it is. I think it might be 10. So I think Harry Garside, I think will get the win. But Leighton McFerrin, a good, and I'll take my hat off to both of those guys. Harry for taking the fight with McFerrin. McFerrin obviously wants an opportunity at that level. And the promoters are saying, hence what I went through early in the episode. If you've got people paying for pay-per-views, you give them value for money. And that's why I really like they've given Garside a live fight, just like they did in his last fight. That was a great fight. Really, really good TV fight. I thought that was. Garside was brilliant in what he did. I don't think McFerrin is probably on the same level as his last fight, Matteo, but it'd be pretty close. So that one will go, along the same lines, I think. Pommy, what do we got here? 20 years ago, it was about the record. They'd have 15 chin-up fights and all fight each other, but now they go for cash and the legacy means nothing. They all protect the record. No sense of warrior spirit. Mate, you hit it on the head. Now, what the irony in the whole situation is the guys these days don't fight each other until it's that exact timing, and they've really got no choice but to fight each other because they talk about legacy. They all talk about legacy while fighting these guys that have got, they're coming off losses or they're ranked number 12 and all this sort of stuff, and they bypass the live fights. Now, yeah, for me, as I said, legacy to me is all about, as I said earlier, it's about just who you fought, when you fought them, the results, and not necessarily sometimes whether you won and lost. Some of the greatest legacies we've ever had have been in guys that have lost fights. Look at Joe Fraser. We know he beat Muhammad Ali in the first fight, but you probably got more kudos for the third fight of this, the heart that he showed in that fight. It was a fight that he lost. I think he's standing in the world rankings at that stage, or the pound for pound or heavyweight rankings, whatever you want to call it, went higher. A lot of it was based on that third fight. And there's an argument to be made, and it's already getting made now, that Manny Pacquiao all time will rank higher than Floyd, even though Manny lost, I think, 8 or 9 fights, whatever it was. Might even be 10, whatever it was. So, and that's because Manny fought every single person at the peak at the right time. He lost a few. He won most of them, of course, but he lost a few as well. So a lot of people have actually put aside the Mayweather fight and said, no, we rank him higher all time because of his all-time record. So I'm with you, mate. 20 years ago, and even before that, I think too, that have the 15 children. Yeah, they would. And there'd be it wasn't about the wins and losses. It's about legacy, and obviously the dollars talk. I think these days a lot of them are too scared to take these big fights. One is because it's the Mayweather syndrome. We don't want to lose. But reality check, guys, once in every 100 years does someone retire with an undefeated record, an all-time great I'm talking about. And it's almost like fighters get judged. It's almost like they want you to lose, or you need to lose a fight or two for fight fans to actually take you seriously. If you don't lose, I think you're cherry-picking all your fights. And that's why I think Floyd Mayweather Jr. is very harshly treated by some people out there, because they rank or they judge him based on his unbeaten record. Well, go down the record. You can't keep count of how many world champions that he fought. It's ridiculous. So anyway, but I agree with you there, Tassie. And I think you'll agree with me there as well. Floyd did not duck anyone. Yeah, he has, mate. You can only fight who they put in with you. And look, I know there's the argument. Some of it is his timing. He might have fought all of these guys eventually, but it's when he fought them. There's an argument about when he fought Shane Mosley. They should have fought him at lightweight and not welterweight. There's Antonio Margarito, who he never fought. Miguel Cotto, who he could have fought a few years earlier. Pacquiao, of course. The list sort of goes on and on and on and on. But I just think he fought these guys when the time suited him. You got to take out the fact that he fought Ricky Hatton, who was in his prime and undefeated when he fought him. So many comments coming in. I'm struggling to keep up. We'll keep going through them. But he fought them, at the right time for him and when it made the most sense. And you got to remember, when he fought Mosley, eventually fought Mosley, he was coming off the win over Margarito, and everyone said he was, a real possibility of beating Floyd. Well, guess what? Apart from landing a good overhand right in the second round, he never won a round after that. Marquez, who had those fights with Pacquiao and was deemed unlucky in all of them up to that point, he beat him, and Marquez didn't win a round against him either. Cotto, you could make a case, gave Mayweather an okay fight, but still only won 3 or 4 rounds. So De La Hoya, yep. Got to remember too, De La Hoya was coming down from middleweight at the time as well. So, I don't know, you can make an argument for all these guys. All I know is that for me, Floyd Mayweather Jr. ticked both. He had the undefeated record, plus he fought every single half-decent fighter or anyone that he could have faced in his generation, beat every single one of them. So, that's just fact. But we can keep going on there. Mate, yes, thank you for answering my question here before we move on. Bono is the guy. Oh, you too. Okay. Bono dines out as he sticks around because he was decent in the okay. Yep. Okay. Sorry, mate. I didn't really get what you were saying there, but no, I agree with that. Yep, because he was decent in the 80s. Yeah, he's still hanging around. Chris dines out the fact his dad was one of the best. Yep, 100% agree. Paul, what do we got there? If you ever head to Denver, let me know. Have a mate I grew up with, trained with Buster Douglas. Okay. Has his own Aussie. Is that poker pit stop? No, hang on. Aussie poke pit stop selling Aussie traditional food. Mate, the one thing I crave when I go to America is Aussie food. So if you can send me his details, mate, I would love to catch up with him. Last time I was in New York, which was about 7 years ago, I managed to find an Aussie-owned cafe. And I can tell you what, the old flat white never tasted as good, I can tell you. That old percolated American coffee tends to get a bit monotonous after a while. All right, we'll continue on. I'll just grab a drink there. All right, Lennox, case and point. No one wanted the Vitali fight. He was calling for it. Many in UK didn't want him to have it as they thought he would lose. For me, you'd want to fight the best wherever. And that's what I love about Lennox, and also what I love about Tyson Fury. You know, he could have probably got an easier passage to a world title, but guess what? He took on the most dangerous and biggest puncher since Mike Tyson and took him head on and beat him. Well, he drew the first time, beat him the next 2 times. He stopped him twice after that. Yeah, so yeah, that's why I've got so much respect for Lennox Lewis, because he fought the Tysons, even though I know Tyson was past his peak. He took on the Tommy Morrisons and the Evander Holyfields and Shannon Briggs and all these guys, and obviously the Klitschko's, Vitaly Klitschko. And you're right, no one wanted. Was it? It was Klitschko he fought, wasn't it? Just correct me on that. It's not Vladimir. I think it was Vitaly. Yeah, well, it says Vitaly there. So, yeah, well, mate, again, credit to him. I know a lot of controversy with the cut eye and all that sort of stuff, but mate, I got no doubt Lennox, you know, he was the man back then. No one would have beaten him, and yeah, he, full respect for him for taking that fight as well. Thanks for the this, Andrew. Andy, I love this as well. The over is overrated. Yep, again, 100% agree. Floyd popularised at that, and this generation is scared because O seems valued now. Glad Canelo doesn't have that O no more, but should have another L from the Fuji fight. Yeah, no, I'm not going to argue with you on that, mate. As I said, I thought the first fight might have been a draw. I don't think Canelo won the fight, but I think it was either draw / Triple G split decision win. But yes, you're 100% about that. Now, the O is 100% overrated, and Floyd is to blame. He's also to blame for a lot of people trying to, mimic the shoulder roll, hence getting themselves knocked out. Tip out there, guys, if you're a boxer, especially a young boxer, don't try and be Floyd. Take on a lot of other things that he's doing. Take on the way he trains, the way his mindset. Don't try and take on the shoulder roll. I can tell you, because it's one of those things. You either know it or you don't know. And he perfected it over a long, long, long time. So maybe just on his other other assets and just leave the shoulder roll to him. And mate, look, and just on the O thing. Now, I actually exchanged messages with Isaac Hardman last week. And it was about the O. It was all about, can't lose the O and this and that. But I think it was Isaac. And I'm positive it was. He said, now that the O's gone, well, who gives a shit about the O? Really. You look at Liam Wilson in his fight against the Filipino guy. He got knocked out, took his L, trained hard, come back and got, the knockout in the rematch. People only remember your last fight. And you're right, Floyd, he did popularise it, and it's probably the one thing I don't like about Floyd is he made it all about the O, and that's what I don't like. But yeah, as I said, you're only as good as your last fight. And Canelo, he got absolutely schooled by Floyd. Well, guess what? He come back bigger, better than ever, and now people are actually comparing him to a Floyd Mayweather in the overall all-time ranking. So I don't think he's anywhere near that yet. But so just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, get rid of that O mentality, and move on. Vitaly, yeah, sorry, thanks, Pommy. It was Vitaly at the time. Everyone was scared, as they should have been. Many punters were like, Tyler is too young, too strong, but Lewis wanted it massively. He took him out. And that there lies the fact that of why someone gets ranked in the all-time list and others don't. And that's why Lewis is definitely there, because he fought Vitaly and won. Guys, old saying though, you cannot knock out what you cannot see. Floyd could find space in a crowded elevator. Exactly. And that's why I implore fighters out there to not be like him, because it's I did a thing a while ago on social media, little tips and that. And one of my things is don't try and be something that you're not. Take things from all different fighters, all successful. Take as much as you can from them, but don't try and be them. So why try and do the shoulder roll when only Floyd can do the shoulder? Simple as that. Well, maybe one or two others can, I suppose, but don't try and be him. Try and take out some other things that he does well. I say to anyone that I would take the mindset of a Floyd Mayweather. I take the mindset of a George Kambosos, even. That mindset of I'm number one, I'm number one, I'm number one. And just roll with it. I take the way Canelo, he rips, he hooks, he uppercuts, all that sort of. That's what I take from him. All these different. Take that from them, but don't try and be them, because those guys can be some of your best coaches. But the best coaches don't try and make you into them. They try and instill in all of that good stuff in you without trying to turn you into something that you're not. So, guys, look, we're at 9 o'clock. We've been going for a couple of hours. The voice is starting to get a bit raspy there. Yes, Ross, thanks, mate. I was just going to mention that. Look out this weekend. Shakur Stevenson, Oscar Valdez. Thought of this fight if you have the time. Yes, just quickly, mate. I think Stevenson gets the chocolates over Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez is a great fighter. He can punch with the best of them. I just think Stevenson might be a bit slick, and I think he gets the decision win over Valdez. So I'm not quite sure of the television schedule, even though they put it up there. But Stevenson for me. I never talked about Love It, Lyndon. Floyd simply trained. I'll put that up there so I can read it out. Last one from Pommy. Never talked about it. And Love It, Lyndon. Floyd simply trained harder, smarter for all the bravado. The guy has a degree in boxing. Yes, mate, 100% he does. You talk about sort of having a mentor in boxing. Floyd would have to be it, wouldn't it? Just as a consultant or whatever you want to call it. But he's just in a century, half a century fighter. Once in a 50-year fighter. Great, but also a great businessman. And I think the haters out there just can't stand the fact that he retired undefeated and is also worth, $750 million. So, good luck to him. And before I finish too, better luck also or full respect also to Floyd Mayweather, who is now doing the exhibitions. As he said himself, he retired from boxing. He didn't retire from making money. So if he wants to do some exhibitions with whoever he wants to, if people want to pay for it, then good luck to him. He's made no secret of what he's doing. He's not trying to con the public. He's not trying to make them into legitimate boxing fights. He's saying, hey, YouTuber, if you want to watch it, here's the pay-per-view details. Put in your $60 or $70 and you can watch it. He's not saying that like maybe the Logan Paul's passed it off as a legitimate fight. He's saying, no, this is me fighting a YouTuber, for no decision. So if you want to get it, let's go. If you don't, then so be it. There's a difference. All right, guys, thanks very much to everyone. And yes, Paul, I did hear about Ricky Hatton having an exhibition too. So same thing applies to him. So that'll be awesome. Thanks very much, guys, for tuning in. I'll get a bit of a drink now for the raspy throat, and we'll be back next Monday. Okay, so from 7 till between 7 and 8, we'll try and keep it to an hour. Hopefully, we'll keep going if we have to, but from 7 o'clock next week. So I'd love to have you on board. Really appreciate you jumping on board and asking all the questions. I love talking boxing, and hopefully it gives you guys someone to sort of vent to, or get out there for other people to discuss as well, because it's not just me that's discussing. I want you guys to interact with each other, and really hope that we might test the waters again with some of you guys to actually come on the show, and we can chat about it then. So until then, see you next week at 7 o'clock. Thanks, guys.